Hello everyone, and welcome to the Shakespearean Shrew. I am your Shakespearean Shrew, Karen Feiner, professor from the University of Oklahoma and lover of all things bard. This podcast is a decorum-be-damned entrance into understanding Shakespeare's stages, for there are many, and all the players on it. I am at the Mermaid Tavern in the Paseo District with David Weber, actor, director, theater educator at OSU, and master.
Oh, Lord.
So, we brought you in because you are doing the critically acclaimed one-man Christmas Carol, An Actor's Carol.
Yes.
Which will be playing in Oklahoma City on December 11th.
Yes.
We are very excited. It's going to be playing here on December 11th at OSP. So can you tell us a little bit about this production?
Absolutely. It's going to be here. It's going to be in the Black Box. Do we call it the Black Box or the indoor space?
The Black Box.
It's the inside one.
It's the inside one, which is great because even at the Fringe Festival, I saw how flexible the space is with the curtain and different shows, and then being here as an actor in Twelfth Night and that garden aesthetic. So I love how transformative the space is. But I will take the Charles Dickens Christmas Carol, and I have a clown perspective through it. So when people say, what does that mean? What does that look like? I'm not dissing the show. I'm not taking a piss on Charles Dickens. What I'm doing is I'm getting the show back to its root, which is how Charles Dickens shared his work, which was in living rooms, telling the story, spinning a yarn. And that, just the nature of doing that, so honoring the characters and giving them their acting scene work. When I'm with Bob Cratchit, I'm Bob Cratchit, and when I'm Mrs. Cratchit, I'm Mrs. Cratchit, and when I'm Fred, I'm Fred, and when I'm Scrooge, I'm Scrooge. And it's not, it's not like Master Thespian, and I'm going to do all these parts for you, which is kind of a connotation when people think of a one-man Christmas Carol, where they think of like, oh my God, I'd rather just stab myself in the eyeball with a spork. That perception of it is real. And then trying to do things like this no, come see the show, come experience the story the way it was meant to be told, interpreted by me, David Weber, and that's the clown. That's me stripped from MFA in acting, artistic associate. I'm just a guy doing the best I can on this planet with all of my imperfections, my shortcomings, my failings, all of it. And through all of that, I've had to make amends with another human being. I've had to experience an arc of redemption. I have done that. I'm 16 years sober. If we get to November 20th,
I will definitely cheers to that one.
Exactly, cheers. So that journey of me, experiencing sobriety, and what does that mean? My perception of what AA is, and my perception of being a teetotaler, and don't trust a man who doesn't drink. And I'm just Irish. No, I'm an actor. I'm wild, and I'm that whole journey of embracing my truth. All of that is in Charles Dickens' tale, and to experience that has been very profound for me. And doing this show now, this is going to be my 4th year doing it. I still am just full of terror and fear in a way that is different than just playing Claudius or playing a part, because it is getting back in touch with all of that humanity. Luckily, the show has been tried and true. I've done it in different cities, and I've experienced the ride of it, and so I am excited about sharing it with this community.
I actually had a question about that, because theater is so much about the community, both the community, in the audience, and how they, create a community with the actors, but also behind this, behind the curtain, the stage all working together, the characters working off one another. So what is it like? You mentioned terrifying, and I'm sure that'll come up again, but
yeah.
But what is it like carrying all of it and not really having? Do you bounce off the audience? How do you kind of balance that idea of community and theater in a one-man production?
The first aspect of the show, when I did it in 2024, or 2020, I'm sorry.
What year is it?
What year is it again? When I first did it, the why a clown Christmas Carol, and that was what was asked when we were doing it. It was so fast, and we were in the first wave of COVID. It was no one was producing theater, and I was an adjunct at Young Harris College, and I needed to do something. I needed to express. It wasn't so much about making money. It was about, I have to do something. I could not, like some of my peers and colleagues, just be content with being in a pause. I had to create, I had to figure something out, and the one-man clown Christmas Carol came from just that. It was asking 6 actors if they wanted to do a 6-person Christmas Carol, and no one felt comfortable doing it. And so I asked Tim Blewett, who is familiar with this kind of work and this aesthetic, who flew from Los Angeles to come and workshop with me the day after Halloween. We started working.
Wow, okay.
And very quickly we realized that it was about, the clown aspect was the fact that this is a problem. We have David Weber, and David Weber is going to perform this show for you. So let's see how it goes. And that in its best incarnation is how the red nose started to work on me. It was just stripping away all the pretension. And then we have the great game of the clown, which is to keep it positive, that there's a tremendous sense of hope. So in doing the show, I would feel overwhelmed and defeated, and then have to remind myself that no. You have to honor the red nose, and that you have to give the audience that essence and that gleam of hope. So it's always been geared towards the audience. It's always been about, this is for you and us to experience this story in a new way, because you can go down the street, and at the time it was, you can go to the Alliance Theater, you could go to the Shakespeare Tavern, you can go to theatrical outlet, you can go to your community and see so many different productions of this show. Yeah. So me and my hard-earned money, why are you, what vanity, what is this that you want me to see? That pessimism is trying to break through that and go, could you just share in the work? Was what it was about at first. And so a lot of my colleagues were the first people to see the show. A lot of theater professionals, a lot of actors were the first people to see the show. Ooh. And those were the people, if it was by my accord, I would not be doing the show. I'm being honest. There's nothing in me that wanted to do this show again. It was too terrifying. And I also thought it was the worst work I had ever done. I really was content. I knew it was horrible. I knew it was just awful. In my soul, that's the way I felt. It's just that feeling of just like, man, I guess this is as good as I'm gonna get as an actor. Just right at the threshold of my talent and abilities. And so right away, those first people, Chris Crawford, the head of theater at Young Harris College, and Marlon Burnley and Ann Towns, and Ami Vyas, and all the people that I really respected coming to see my show. And the first thing that they would do is go, David, this was beautiful. I've never seen you like this. And I was like, what? What? I really want to go and hide. And they were the first people to say, no, you have something here that's very special. And so was that initial response, the community, my
Yeah.
community, which was to very, very emphatically, they would have told me if they would have, I know what that's like. Yay, good for you. Wow, it was great to see you up there. You know, I know what that's like. But it was the opposite. And that has continued to be the case where there's enough, and I get that, and like I would understand that. I was like, well, I guess they're seeing me run a marathon. I mean, they're seeing me so full of, you know, an effort to just finish this, to get to the finish line, that I don't really have a lot of time to get self-conscious in the work. I'm failing all over myself for an hour, and maybe there's something entertaining in that.
Well, and I think that's so interesting because I do a lot of work with the clown and the fool in Shakespeare's works, because I think the clown is such a source of wisdom and perception and the ability to kind of see yourself through the fool. But the clown for me in Shakespeare, it's failing up, right? It is messing up, but doing great things by mistake. It is that element of, you know, kind of unintentional goodness.
That's so profound, because I wouldn't have the, you know, to articulate that, but the clown failing up is what I have experienced in the show. And again, it's because it is a piece of theater. Some people like it. It's not their cup of tea. You know, I'll sit there and see people like judging it while I'm doing it. You know, people that are just wanting to see theater, you know, and they just, the audience member that is that. But for the most part, I think that's what people are experiencing. They're seeing me fail up. They're seeing me arise to some sort of potential, because it's in the writing.
Right.
And because it's in the writing, I will, by hook or by crook, arrive to it.
Well, and I think that's the other thing, is that people always seem to think, oh, you know, the clown, they're not, you know, they're not high-end actors. But I've talked to a lot of actors who have been like, the clown is the hardest role to play. And because you've got to be vulnerable, you've got to perform in a way that's not necessarily performing, but like, and so they were like, it's a hard position to be in, because you are this funny figure, but if you play it to a certain extent, it doesn't feel real anymore, and it loses a lot of what makes it funny or what makes it real for an audience. And so that was really interesting to hear, because again, so many times you think slapstick humor and you're just like, oh, dumb comedy. But that is not what that is. Like, that is not what a clown is. That is not what a fool is. It is almost the opposite of that. But yeah.
No, I mean, it's all of that. It's and I think the nature of the dynamic of clowning is set up to experience that problem. So most of us that have experience, if we work with, like I work with David Bridell, or I've worked with, you know, Ezra LeBanc, or Paula Coletto, and all these people, you study clown, and that's it. It's like, okay, good luck. You know, because it's that, here's the problem. You can't go waka waka waka, and in that dynamic of trying to clown and to fail, and then laughter, and then keep the laughter going, that dance is challenging, but it's very worthwhile when it works. And so I think without having the structure of Charles Dickens, there's no potential for me to do it. And without having my own redemption, my own sobriety story, there's no place for me to clown. Like, there's no place for me. I can say in full authority, hey, I'm a drunk. I'm also a professor, assistant professor at OSU. I'm a drunk clown. You know, and that's like, but I'm also sober.
And awesome.
And awesome, and all of that. And so it's that full, the full inventory of my humanity is what I think great authors write with when they're writing with clowns, to be able to go, I see you.
Yes.
It's the, it's the patron who gets very upset about any kind of sexuality, and at the same time, him or her, or they have like 6 kids. It's like, how is that possible? How can both things be true?
Yes.
Well,
and I think it's also, right now, it feels like it's a really hard time to laugh. Mm-hmm. It feels like with everything happening, for a lot of us, it's a tough time to see or to experience humanity in any way that doesn't feel tragic.
Well, there's that, and I think because we're so close to an event, the grief and the anger and the broken heart of a lot of people is being experienced in polarity with cheering and celebration and victory, and it's in that where, again, all we could do is go, well, this is the time for art. This is the time to
bring in the clowns.
Bring in the clowns. Can we? I don't know. I mean, I really don't know what it looks like in terms of bringing people together. Yeah. There is such the polarity of I want nothing to do with you, to I have to see you. I'm going to be at your wedding, I'm going to be at your funeral, I'm going to be at your dinner table, or not. I'm going to have to buy my coffee from you, I'm going to have to share my Uber with you. There's just something about a shared, the way we navigate as society is something that's a very real thing.
Yes.
And to talk about it or not talk about it, can my point of view be shared through my art?
Right.
Is of what I can hang on to.
And I think comedy, laughter, is such a powerful thing in bridging a polarized community or a almost shattered community, because it allows conversations to be had that otherwise aren't. Mm-hmm. Right? I think that a lot of times when you try to have just a serious conversation, people tend to get offended or hurt, and then it turns into weaponized language and anger and the opposite of the intended communication. Mm-hmm. But for me, what's so important about clowning and clowns and the humor that they can bring to a situation is that they can talk about the serious issues. They can bring up elements of a society that are corrupt or broken. Mm-hmm. But because of the way they do it, the majority of the people, and there will always be the outliers, right, who get mad and get upset, but it feels like to me the majority of the people will laugh because it gives them a moment to stop being scared or a moment to, stop being angry. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, for me, I think clowning and humor are so imperative right now.
It's so imperative, I think, for us as a species. But again, why something like the Christmas Carol, why it works and why it works for me and why I keep doing it and trying to find an audience with it is because of that dance where it's like I think where Christmas Carol fails is that when we look at it the way that it's presented to us, it's with the spectacle and the set changes and the costumes, and we're looking at the spectacle and we're not looking at, I did this show in underground Atlanta, and it was in a space, we found a space and we took it over and we lit it. Greg Hanthorne did some great jobs just kind of like getting in there and like lighting the production, and people had to find it and it was an experience. It was a found space that we took over, and that was in 2022. And in that space, you could smell the poverty on the outside of the wall. You could feel it. You could feel downtown Atlanta right on the outside of the wall, and that was Dickens.
Yes.
That was very visceral, and it helped make the show kind of what it is, which is life is hard, and this subject matter is dealing with people who are going through some real poverty and some real things. And you know what? Bob Cratchit, raising his kids on his salary, was making more than what we consider minimum wage today. Bob Cratchit, our centerpiece. Yes. For the put upon. Yes. Employee who is not treated per his worth, is actually...
I didn't know that. That's insane.
Isn't that insane? And so all these things. And then when people come away from the show, that is, I think, a little bit more in their heart more than just going, oh, that David Weber, he can do that accent really well, or he really blows at that accent, right? They're not thinking about that. They're just thinking about Bob's story. And that's the whole point. Or they're thinking, wow, Miss Cratchit what an amazing woman she was. To be able to call the shots and to be able to take care of her husband and her kids at the same time.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful when you think about it.
Yeah.
So like the elements of the people in the story that Dickens wrote was not shiny, and it was not a lot of spectacle. It was very dark.
Yeah. Very
dark and subversive. And to have the audience take away that experience as opposed to me hammering it in, mm-hmm. has been a real gift about doing the show.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know, it's always so interesting because for me,
it's great art, right?
Yes.
It's great writing.
And that's what it should be. It should be a little difficult, right? There should be those moments where you actually have to kind of battle with your own preconceived notions or your own, issues as an audience. Mm-hmm. And kind of, for me, art necessitates a little bit of that. And I think that there are those moments here's my Grinch mug. But everyone, always jokes with me because they're like, you're a terrible Jew,
Mine says main character energy.
Our cups are very apt today. But, because they're just like, you love Christmas. Mm-hmm. And I love the idea of it. I like the sparkly idea of hope and, mm-hmm.
But
then Michelle, my brew shrew, invited me over to decorate her Christmas tree. And I stopped after 5 minutes. I was like, this is really hard.
Just let me light a candle.
Right? I'm used to just lighting menorah. So easy. Unless the candles fall out, I start a fire.
But no, you're right. The idea of it, and the idea of Christmas, and the idea of hope, and the idea of redemption in Scrooge is, again, such a powerful, for me to find, there's something that, one of my hooks into the show is the power of an amends. And Marley says, to have no space in one's life to make amends for one's opportunities misused. He says that early on, and I was like, I never resonated with that line. I never knew what that line meant. But what he says is if you don't find that spot in our life to go, hey, it was wrong of me to do that to you. What is it that I can do to make things go better? What is it? What can I do? That is such a hard space to be in. I've experienced that, and a lot of people have. It's not enviable. I'm not signing up to do that. But Marley's saying, boy, if you do, the hope, what you get back from that. And that has been so powerful. Every time I knock on Fred's door to ask if I can come back in, it's just, it's I've experienced that, and I know to have that resonate where people can watch that and go, oh shit, it's not just like I get to dance and play games again. It's like, wow, you're seeing Scrooge really undertake some really hard work. And it's not easy, but what he gets is the hope of the story.
Yeah.
You know, and he becomes, you know, the thing that we hope for all of us. You know?
Yeah, no, it's just amazing to me because I never really looked at it in that perspective, which, you know, says a lot, I think, about for a lot of us. You know,
if I hadn't gotten sober, if I hadn't had to make amends to the people that, you know, I had done wrong in my life, I wouldn't have my students. I wouldn't have, you know, an opportunity as an actor. There's so much that I wouldn't have the opportunity for. But when I was in the throes of my illness, which Scrooge is sick.
Yes.
He's sick. He is so bah humbug, means that you've been, you know, I don't believe in you. You're trying to get something from me. So Scrooge is spiritually sick. And he gets awakened. And if I hadn't had that awakening, so much of my life I just wouldn't have. And I wouldn't have been privy to it. Like at the time, you couldn't have told me, like, you could say, David, quit smoking and it's bad for you. And I'm like, okay. You know, David, drink responsibly. And I'm like, all right, I'll try. So all these things that, you know, it's impossible not to give lip service to, because we don't know really what it is. And so to be able to unpack what it is that Scrooge has gone through.
Right.
Through the realm of the red nose. And again, you know, people are listening and going, oh shit, I don't want to see, you know, you have a therapeutic. It's like, it's not. I mean, I don't put a main focus on my story. It's just my story through the lens of Scrooge's. So I will call out attention in the red nose to what he's going through. Only in a service of to go, you might want to think about that. And so people, when they take away and go, you know, I never thought about that moment before until I saw your production, and that's very gratifying.
I mean, I think it goes back to the, you know, people always say like, oh, the real meaning of Christmas. And, you know, I think to an extent, I mean, I'm going to disagree with some people on what that might be because, you know, Jew. But I also think that at the end of it, though, it is that celebration of humanity. It is that celebration of the fact that we can fall down, make bad decisions, and learn to get back up. And have other people there to help us get back up. And so I think that, you know, it's interesting because there's ghosts in A Christmas Carol that, you know, that visit Scrooge, but rather than the supernatural, I think it's just people offering a different perspective that he couldn't see because he was so deep in what was going on in his world and his pain and his, you know, his perspective. Yes, and it's like what you just said, you know, it's like a lot of artists, we know this and we feel this and we share this, and I'm not saying anything that's wrong. Like if you are a religious person, I don't want to take that away from you. But you know, this experience that we have in our humanity of, like, you know, Christmas, like what you just said, is the essence of what's best of it. And then I think sometimes, you know, as religion, we package it and we sell it and we take away, that's not the point of all about what Christmas is about. And it should be a universal message. And that's it. The universal message, you would think, would be to uplift humanity and to make us fulfill our potential and to pull us out of hellish situations spiritually. Yes. We do that for each other. Ghosts, living, friends, enemies, and like teachers. That's what everyone is. And those ghosts are just basically teachers for Scrooge. And so yeah, I feel that. I feel like we miss the point, and those that don't want to hear the point and just want to be entertained,
You know, they can get a beer and they'll have fun. They'll see me. It's not long. You could do, you know, you could sit through anything at an hour in a chunk. It'll be more entertaining than a board meeting.
Well, I'm excited.
Well, I'm glad. So am I.
But and you talked about the money aspect of it, but for you, this is not about the money aspect, right? Because the money is actually going towards a cause.
Yes, we're raising money for the theater. So, yes, I do get my work that is seen by the greater community, and it's work that I'm very passionate about, and it's things that I've been researching for a while. But as an artistic associate with Oklahoma Shakespeare, it's in conversation with the whole gang. It's like, okay, how can I help? What can I do to help the theater? And well, if it is a night that I'm not going to, I'll defer any kind of like, you know, sustenance so we can just see if we can have a Christmas party here, which is the whole point. It's like, come, those that have the ability to make an extra donation, even though we're asking you a lot over and over and over again, and probably will be continuing to ask you to open your wallets for Oklahoma Shakespeare. But here's something that you can, here's my gift to you. And we hope it's a good exchange, and then we'll go to our production values, we'll go to hopefully to increase salaries for actors. The money that we raise will go to the intention, which is to compete with other theaters in the city and to compete with other Shakespeare festivals at large in the nation to put us where I think the Oklahoma Shakespeare deserves to be, which is a premier company in the country.
Well, and talking about hope, I think that, you know, that's what you're giving so many of these very, you know, there's a lot of young actors at OSP who you've been working with and who are kind of emerging onto the stage, and you know, OSP gives a lot of people in a lot of different positions a chance to. I've had the opportunity to see you multiple times on stage, which has always been a pleasure. But also, you know, other individuals and actors who are getting the chance to direct and getting the chance to see how far they can push their boundaries and what is possible as actors. And so I think it's, you know, as we're thinking about hope, I think the theater is a place where hope, I think that's why I love the theater so much, is because it's a place of hope. It's a place of possibility.
The place of possibility is a place for transformation. Right? When I was a young actor at the Atlanta Shakespeare Company, there's no, like when I was the Benvolios and the Fabians and those characters, the Horatios, I never really, if you would have asked me, David, you're going to do a one-man Christmas Carol, I would have been what? But in terms of our theater is a great apprenticeship tool where we stick around it. You know, it's funny, like you can't help it when some of the younger actors would be like, yeah, I'm going to audition, I'm going to go graduate school. Or there's this idea of like theater being like a stepping stone. Like everything is a stepping stone to an Oscar, or everything is a stepping stone. And then, you know, that's just the way it is when you're young and you're hungry and you're ambitious. And of course, we all want to work with great people and we all want to do good work. But the conversation should be about, what do you want to express? What kind of theater do you want to create? What kind of stories do you want to tell? Not about what are you going to get, but what are you going to give? And that just becomes, that's my time. That's me at 51 versus me at, 27, just trying to get stage time. So it's really cool. And the actors in this community are incredible. Everyone that I've worked with has been so special. And now I have the perspective to go, oh, it was good over there, and it's really good here. It has such great potential, and what would squash that? It would be lack of resources. Right. It would be not the ability for this generation to direct, to get their stage time, to do these things. So,
because giving opportunities in a place where you need funds is always a risk. It's always one of those where, and thankfully OSP is willing to take that risk. But, you know, that's thanks to a lot of you. A lot of you have given us the opportunity and the ability to take these risks because you've come to see the shows, because you've donated, and because you've volunteered. And so, you know, you are allowing OSP to keep doing what they have been doing. So
in the
thank
community,
you all.
like, you know, was Branch and Tyler Woods.
Yes.
Both of them, when I showed up here last year, they're like, hey, welcome to the community. Welcome, you know, come. You know, we need you. I need them. We need each other. And so it's been a real, it's a real gift. It's a real honor to be able to do that.
Well, and I love seeing your students at the last production. Your students kind of showed up in mass, and it was so cool to see them at different nights and different, you know, at different productions. And, you know, I drag my students here. You're welcome. But, you know, because it gives them this opportunity to see productions that otherwise they've read, and reading Shakespeare is lame.
Right. It is.
And it gives them an opportunity to interact. And I think that is, you know, something that you do really well, is interact, whether it's just with your words and your gestures.
Breaking that wall.
Yes.
Direct address.
But I think, you know, as we're, you know, both teachers, it's an interesting perspective to be in, to, you know, because I used to, that's all I wanted to do was be on stage. And then I got the opportunity. One of my professors was like, will you co-teach, shout out to Iska Alter, will you co-teach my Shakespeare class with me? And I was like, okay, like this will be fun. And so I got up there and I was like, wait, this is like a stage, except they have to listen to me and they have to be here. This is fabulous. And so, you know, I just kind of ran with it and, you know, went, you know, the teaching route. But, you know, I've always loved the stage because it allows for different perspectives of the same, of, you know, something. I've never seen a Hamlet twice. Like, I've never seen one production that's exactly the same as another production because they're living, breathing things. And I think that that is, you know, something that I hope my students see when I drag them here.
Well, it was cool because Tyler, when I was in Romeo and Juliet, I think they had similar codes to get in, but I was so new to the theater that I think there was like 2 students that were able to come up from Stillwater to come here, and then 12th night we experienced that again, where it's like, I'm just having a hard time with the price of tickets and their commute, and then the conversation being, well, there are codes and there's discounts and they can volunteer, and so, but there's something about, like, we really made the codes implicit for them, and we sent that out. Our marketing at OSU and our head of theater, Lee Brassel, we all made it a kind of a collective forward where we want the students to come up here to be part of the community, to be able to hopefully work here eventually, you know. And so it was great in Hamlet when they were, you know, people backstage would be like, your posse's here.
Yes.
Your crew's back there. We know they're not laughing just at your talent or your interpretation. Thanks.
But it was very cool because you know, sometimes I feel like like after COVID, it felt like a lot of people stopped coming to the theater for a while. Like, they're like, oh, I can just watch it at home.
Right.
And theater, watching a play on a TV screen, it's not the same thing.
Or being so close to their high school experience at their age that if all the students at OSU are seeing is my stage productions or my colleagues' stage productions, it's so small. Come out here and go to the Fringe, go to OSP, go to Oklahoma City Rep. You know, there's so much so much to see and take advantage, so you can be part of the professional conversation, hopefully move the art form forward a little bit, and then get successful, and then employ me. Is this thing on? Get me that pool house just in the back where I could sit as I drool. Think off into space about that time.
I feel like being your student would be really fun.
We have a good time. Some of them kick me in the teeth, rightly so, over things that, but I love it when they ask me to articulate something. And then I like spin it worse. I'm like, why did I even open my mouth? But for the most part, I love it. I mean, I would say 90% of the time I leave the acting lab or the acting studio I want to go and I want to act. Yes. It's a great experience. Whereas leaving the rehearsal hall, it's usually like, oh my God. But that challenge is great. And the students at OSU they're willing, they want to tell great stories, they want to learn and get better, and so I'm very grateful for the appointment.
Oh, I also love your students, and I would like you to all be my students.
Oh, you should do a master class and invite us up.
Oh, that would be really fun.
And we'll come up and we'll...
Heck yes.
Yes.
Okay, it's a date.
It's a date.
So, I love the way you talked about with the energy, because I think that that's true. I think that there are days I get done teaching and I have more energy than I started with. Mm-hmm. Other days it's not true. But on the good ones. So rehearsals, I do feel like you don't have any feedback other than the director telling you what you did right or wrong. Mm-hmm. But what about performances? For performances, is most of the time is it exhausted by the end, or is it revved up at the end? How do you usually emerge?
Well, I love the long run. So I loved Hamlet having the 3 weekends. The challenges of the job are, the heat outside and driving up here and dealing with traffic, all that stuff. But it's usually more so now, it's interesting where as I get older, I know what to do as an actor more. Like I know where to put my attention on the objective, playing action, making the event happen. And so really in performance, it's about trying to find mastery in it. And so it's like Claudius's opening speech. If I do one inverted line and word, I'm like, and then it's about like practicing instant forgiveness and getting back on the train and going, it's not about you, it's about the story. And so that dance, trying to get up to mastery, and I don't think I ever had a word perfect show. And that's 3 weeks into all of my experience of just really going for it and doing my eye to the page and experiencing that humanity of it. No, it was a pretty good show. I wasn't bad.
No, I can attest, it was good.
So, but in that becomes what performance is about me. It's about trying to find the specificity and trying to find mastery in the role, and then hitting the damn hurdle, going on the outside of the lines, and just that fight is really, I still love it as a performer.
Yeah. It's making me want to get on a stage. Okay, moving on. So with what you're talking about, I mean, Hamlet, of course, a classic, very well-known Shakespeare production. Christmas Carol, classic, very well-known Christmas production. Do you think that affects people's expectations in the audience? Do you think that they have certain expectations and that it can be beneficial or detrimental for you to kind of work with those?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when I am in the epic production of Christmas Carol or Hamlet, I'm thinking I'm competing against the perception of other people that have played my roles before. And that's good. I mean, I like awareness. I like people who can have a conversation about it, or a conversation of interpretation, or a conversation of choice. I think it's cool. I bring it on. But I like people that are like, this is my first time seeing Hamlet. Or this is my first time seeing Christmas Carol. I don't think I've ever seen a staged version of Christmas Carol. I've heard that more than I experienced with Christmas Carol, my production. Like, really? I was forced to see it as a kid. Like, we would bus in to see it. Like the Nutcracker. So when I hear people say that, I'm like, oh, cool. Well, I love that I'm kind of like, the first experience for you with this text.
There's so many jokes I could make right now, but I won't.
I know. I have a gift for it. I know. How many ways can I dance around that
I was like,
event?
Oh, okay. So, talking Christmas, talking traditions, getting bussed into productions. What's your favorite Christmas tradition? Do you have a favorite tradition?
A favorite tradition, because this show has been my Christmas, my relationship with traditions have been upended, where like last year I finished my last night on the 23rd and then I walked Venice Beach in Santa Monica on the 24th.
As you should.
Sounds
It was really cool, but I'm kind of missing, as I get older, like my parents are getting older and my family, like my sister has her own kids and those kids are having kids. And so this dynamic of what I think about Christmas and I think of my Nana and my grandpa. And I think about being a child in that. And so my favorite tradition now with Christmas has become this show. And so it's become like starting early, where I start listening to Christmas music right after Halloween. I know, but I'm thinking about this show. And I start watching different productions of Christmas Carol, whether it's Seymour Hicks, that's Hicks with an H, Reginald Owen, or Bill Murray's, or even Henry Winkler's in the American Christmas Carol.
Do you have a favorite version?
I love George C. Scott's production of it. I think that still is iconic for me. But part of my, again, becoming in Christmas Carol, I'm starting to become a little bit of a master of the storytellings, and so all these versions are kind of in me as we launch into, boy, you saw Jim Carrey do it. Wait till you get a load of me.
So over the years, so it's been 4 years, has it changed at all? Has the show changed as you've done it?
The architecture of the show, that's a great question. The architecture of what was directed in terms of the movement vocabulary, from where do I put my attention? When I'm Scrooge and I'm talking to Bob, and then Bob talks to Scrooge. That mime, that Eastern European turn, that flow, the huge architecture of the show that really put a lot of tears and sweat in with Tim Blewett and I, that core is still very fundamental in the show. And so that was a kismet gift that him and I were working. We found some magic in that. The point of entry to the show has changed, where now I have like an acoustic set that opens the show. The way I launched the show has changed, and it started to inform the script a little bit. And then like this year, I've added a sound cue, and I've started to incorporate a little bit of dance, because I've got, I've been part of the dance concerts at OSU, and so the clown spectacle of,
Love it.
juggling and let's see the clown do his thing. I've kind of popped that in there just so people can go, okay, we got it. Let's get into let's put the dick back in Dickens. Are we allowed to say that?
Yep,
That'll be edited out.
totally allowed to say that.
Let's put the dick back in Dickens. Let's put the screw back in Scrooged.
Yep, that's going to be the title of this episode.
Hell yes. I think I might put that. I picture myself doing that in the show and then just having like the board member like.
They wouldn't be us.
Yeah.
It would be the whole time just looking at that face.
The eye twitching.
Yeah, the eye twitching.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I've experienced that in the show. Like,
Oh,
okay,
God.
so my clown will not dance with you.
I'll be over here.
I'll be over here.
Oh man. Okay, so gotta ask, since it's the Shakespearean Shrew, but
Yes.
favorite line, favorite play, favorite character of Shakespeare.
Favorite line. I'm a big fan, and I think Tyler and I are big fans on. But look, the morn, and
Yes.
russet mantle clad, walks over the dew of yon high eastern hill. What? The sun's coming.
Yes.
I love that. That's one of my favorite lines. There's so much too with Cassius and Julius Caesar. He's got some good ones.
Yes. Everyone always like, oh, Julius Caesar, because of, and I think that's a lot of it, because the characters and their lines are so good. Yeah.
I love, I know that virtue to be in you, Brutus, as well as I do know your outward favor. I love that line so much. I just want to like win every argument with that in a like, you know, production medium.
That is, yes, we'll have to use that one. We've got one coming up. Okay. So just a couple of announcements. So your production, December 11th at OSP. It is an actor's carol, so get your tickets. It's going to be a fun show. And then, of course, we've got Jane Austen's Christmas Cracker also at OSP from December 5th to December 22nd. So that is also going to be fun. Singing, dancing, ice cream. Can you bring us ice cream?
What we're going to do is we're going to open the bar. I think we're going to have cookies. We're talking about hot chocolate. We're trying to have some sort of like make it into a Christmas party.
Heck yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. That works for me. I can do hot chocolate. All right. So
Tyler's going to be like, what? Now who's going to pay for that?
what did I just promise?
But something, we want it to be a Christmas party. Bring your bells.
Okay.
Ding, 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 ding.
Okay. I don't know that I have any, but I'll find some.
We'll have some, we'll have some ready for you.
Perfect. All right. So before I close for the day, I just want to thank you so much for coming to talk with us. It's been so much fun. I have more to say and more to talk with you about, but we'll do a different episode.
Oh my God, this is you're so great to talk to. You've made this, which can be a terrifying experience, very effortless and fun and engaging. You actually made me like, you know, my eyeball poop a tear. Or shed. I felt like wow, I felt like I was in a therapy session for a second.
We did not pay him to say this.
It's true. It's very true. It's
Well,
true.
thank you.
It's true.
But then I just have one more thing to say.
Oh, for the love of Christ.
Sorry.
All right, sorry.
I just never end. But this is just a shout out to Captain America. I know you are going through a lot right now. And I just want you to know that we are here. We are right behind you. And we will take on whatever is coming at us. So I love you so much. You've got this. I hope this episode brought you a little bit of hope and joy. But thank you all for listening, and just remember, all the world's a stage, and you too can be a shrew.